Amidst a significant technological and financial explosion, major Japanese automakers aspired to expand into the West. Observing the success of competing brands, Subaru decided to enter the world of motorsports with a bold plan: compete in Formula One. With no time to waste, the Japanese forged agreements, resulting in the Subaru 1235, a massive yet underpowered engine that served only to tarnish the brand's name in the premier single-seater competition worldwide. In the late 80s, the Japanese economy was at the peak of its economic boom, with companies investing vast amounts of money in various areas, including sports. The situation was no different for automakers. With the intention of expanding into the West, Subaru decided to follow the path of brands like Honda, Yamaha, and Mazda, the motorsports. Unlike its compatriots, Subaru had very little experience in the field, and to overcome this, the brand sought technological partnerships. The goal was quite ambitious. Right from the start, the automaker aimed to compete in Formula One, a category experiencing both an economic and popularity explosion. For this task, the Japanese decided to enter initially not as a team, but as an engine supplier. The solution to the problem came in the form of motori moderni. The Italian manufacturer was new to the game, but had Carlo Chiti, a former engineer from Alfa Romeo. With engine experience from Minardi and HES, Motori Moderni aimed to change things a bit by producing a flat 12 instead of the previously produced turbocharged V6. With more experience in inline 4 and inline 6 engines, Chiti decided to create a flat 12 with a boxer configuration, incorporating knowledge gained over the years. The equipment was named Subaru 1235 and would be taken to the tracks only by the Minardi team. However, at the last minute, Subaru purchased 50% of Coloni. While the engine's design favored a low center of gravity, the equipment had so many problems that this characteristic became secondary. The 3.5-liter flat 12 was much heavier than competing engines. The problem would be less relevant if the engine were powerful, but this was not the case. The maximum power extracted was around 550 HP, leaving customers with over 100 HP disadvantage in races. The development of the engine began in 1989, and to test it, Subaru initially used a Minardi M188 car. Anticipating that the engine would be a fiasco, the Faenza-based team abandoned the idea of having the engine, leaving Motori Moderni to join forces with Coloni, which provided a C3 car. Designed by Christian van der Plaine, the model was originally equipped with a smaller and lighter Cosworth DFR V8 engine. When equipped with the 1235, the car required additional side air ducts for the engine. The size of the equipment also altered the model's aerodynamics, hindering the airflow underneath the car. With the critical problem at hand, Coloni raced against time to prepare a B version of the car, which was ready only in early 1990. After a brief shakedown in a Phoenix supermarket parking lot, the team took the C3B to the United States Grand Prix, where it had to participate in the dreaded pre-qualifying to race. The 1990 season mostly featured 35 cars competing for 26 grid slots, so racing was not an easy task, and it wasn't. With Belgian driver Bertrand Gauchot in the cockpit, the Subaru-equipped car failed to complete a lap, 661 pounds heavier than its opponents, and with aerodynamic problems, the model was practically undrivable. In the following race in Brazil, the Coloni with the Subaru engine was 10 seconds slower than Eric Bernard, the pre-qualifying leader. In Imola, Gauchot was 5 seconds behind Roberto Moreno of Team Eurobrun. The poor results, combined with the car and engine's dismal performance, led to internal conflicts within the team. The peak of the dispute occurred in May when Enzo Coloni stepped down from leadership. In the subsequent races, the team's ordeal continued. In Monaco, Gauchot was only better than life, and in Canada, the Belgian crashed, finishing ahead only of Eurobrun and again life. In the Mexican Grand Prix, the thin air helped the car, but Gauchot was still 1 second away from qualifying. The next two races, France and Breton, saw Coloni languishing in the penultimate position, ahead only of Life, a team with a car that could barely move. At this point, Subaru's frustration was at its limit. The idea of entering F1 to compete and consequently gain publicity had turned into a real disaster, and the engine had no future in the category. Unable to qualify for any Grand Prix, the automaker decided to withdraw from the competition before the German Grand Prix, selling its stake back to Enzo Coloni, who returned to leadership. Coloni had to renegotiate a contract with Cosworth to receive DFR engines again, the same ones used in the previous year. After 2 races, Guichot's performance improved, and although he couldn't get his car on the Sunday grid, the driver at least managed to qualify for the subsequent qualifying sessions. Without motori moderni, Subaru decided to continue manufacturing the engines, supplying the equipment to various non-F1 parties. The first was Dome. The Japanese manufacturer was heavily involved in motorsports at the time, but its interest in the equipment was different. The manufacturer was looking for a power unit for its mid-engine G8 Cospita prototype. The road car was showcased to the public for the first time at the Tokyo Motor Show in 1989 and already featured the Subaru engine before its debut in F1. Coloni's disaster was reason enough for the manufacturer to abandon the idea, equipping the updated version of the car with a 10-cylinder Judd GV engine. Even after the failure in F1, Albi Engineering approached Subaru for the Flat 12. Engineer Giorgio Strano's team was looking for a 3.5-liter engine to install in its Group C prototype car. Strano's hope of having an F1 engine in his car quickly faded when problems started to appear. The Subaru engine remained heavy and low-powered, affecting Alba in the same way it affected Coloni. Without competitive pace, the team struggled until the 4th race of the calendar at Spa-Francorchamps, when it decided to switch to a 4.5-liter Buick engine. After the Japanese in Alba, Subaru managed to attract Koenigsegg's attention thanks to a friend of Carlo Chitti. The engine's volume had been increased to 3.8 liters, and the change boosted the equipment's power to 580 horsepower. With motori moderni's intermediation, the Swedish brand decided to switch the engine of its Audi V8-powered CC model to the Subaru 1235 in 1994. The supply agreement was going well, but ultimately did not materialize. Carlo Chitti passed away later that year, and shortly afterward, the manufacturer declared bankruptcy. Without motori moderni, the Swedes had to turn to Ford, which supplied a V8 engine for the car. Koenigsegg even bought the project and parts for manufacturing the Boxer engine, but the brand considered the equipment too complicated to produce and abandoned the idea. From the beginning, Subaru's failure in F1 was predictable, and yet the brand decided to move forward. The engine was heavy, complex, and developed little power, unlike the V8, V10, and V12 engines that powered virtually every car on the grid. The only ones going against the trend of V engines were precisely Coloni and Life, which is considered to this day one of the worst teams in F1 history. The money spent translated into negative publicity for the brand, which only achieved success years later in another field. If you enjoyed the video and want to learn more about motorsports, subscribe to the channel. Questions and suggestions are always welcome. Leave them in the comments below. Until next time.